Just out of curiosity, did anyone here like a really like a skill and they're like, what? You can do that? Or like, does anyone have an obscure, like really?
I can do this with my hands. Like,
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Yes. I love it. I love obscure skills. Like someone's like, can anyone ride a unicycle in here? Shoot. Yes, really, yes. That was so perfectly timed. I did not plan that. That's incredible. Oh my gosh. Which brings us right to Psalm 133. Yeah. It goes like this: how good and pleasant it is when God's people live together in unity! Exclamation point. Okay? It is like precious oil poured on the head, running down on the beard, running down on Aaron's beard, down the collar of his robe. It's as if the dew of Hermon were falling on Mount Zion, for there the Lord bestows his blessings, even life forevermore. Those are all good things, basically. You need a little back. Moisturize, beards, good things happening. I always think about this passage because it so rings true to me that it is so good to be with people in unity, that it is so good to belong to something, that it feels so good to be a part of something. And when I was in college, I was on the step team. Oh, sorry, I was the captain of the step team. And the name of the step team was Umoja, which is Swahili for unity, okay? The synergy. But it was such a beautiful experience for a lot of reasons. Now I just love that word and the Queen Latifah song. And it also gave me such a sense of belonging that I had this group of girls like within this large, scary context of college and within all these things. I see one of these girls from across the campus. We run into each other at a party. I see them anywhere and I'm like, okay, I belong to something. I belong to this, right? Because that's all any of us are after. And at New Abbey, we say every single week, it's on our cups, it's on our thing, it's on our signs. We want unity over uniformity. We want to create a sense of belonging across our diversity. And it's really important. Humans, our sense of belonging is like the number one indicator in our mental health. There's a study from the Surgeon General came out that said experiencing extreme loneliness is as bad for your health as smoking a pack of cigarettes a day. Which feels true. Like, who has ever been lonely? Not great. And now the loneliness rates and things that we're talking about, they're all skyrocketing. And what everyone is focusing research and attention and all of these things on is belonging. Because belonging is what can make the difference in our experience here. My grandfather is someone who I think is very lonely and has said that ever since my grandmother has passed away. He's been experiencing a lot of loneliness, and a few years ago he went through a health crisis that caused him to need to be on dialysis. And dialysis was 3 days a week, 6 a.m., all the time, like the same thing. And so he started doing dialysis 3 days a week, 6 a.m., and he would have the same person that would come and pick him up. He would see the same nurses, and he would see the same people who had dialysis on the same schedule, right? He was on the schedule, and time went by and his health got a lot better, and they told him, hey, you could actually get off of dialysis. And he said, no, thank you. Very good indicator of his personality. But also, he was telling my dad, he's like, no, I see these guys every week. I know the driver. He checks in on me. I know that 3 times a week I'm going to see these people. They have become his community, and he has found a sense of belonging in this community. And he's like, I'll keep going. It can't be bad for my health, right? Like, and so he's just committed to doing this because that's how bad we want to belong. And when we find a sense of belonging, we hang on to it because it really changes a lot of how we're all trying to make meaning of our time and our experience here. And it feels so good when we get that. And then it gets more complex because some of us have found belonging in a place that then belonging no longer existed, right? We found belonging in a church or a faith space or a community, and we thought we belonged, and then we didn't belong, and we have some harmful things. But we're all still looking for that sense. I always joke that all my friends who left church and are like, I never could say I'm a Christian again. But they crave that thing. They're like, I'm not a Christian. I'm an Aquarius sun, Taurus moon, Virgo rising. I'm an Enneagram 7, INFP, Gryffindor. Okay, they like, And none of those things are bad. It's just, it always to me points to this reality that we are so deeply looking and clinging and longing to belong. I think something that's hard for me that we're experiencing culturally right now is it seems we are entering a time where total agreement feels like a prerequisite to belonging. That we want community and we want depth and we want the vulnerable, we want all the good stuff that comes with belonging in community, but we're not necessarily always willing to sit in some of the complexity that comes with that. We're a little nervous about what it means to belong to something, or if someone disagrees, or if they don't look like me, or they don't dress like me, or they don't believe these things, can I still belong to that thing? And it feels way more complicated. Growing up, I had a best friend who lived next door, which is how you make friends. When you're a kid. Like, it's anyone in close enough proximity to me. And she was my best friend, and we did what best friends do as kids. We hung out every single day. We made up games. We forced, this is just my personal trauma, but I forced all the adults to watch me do recitals and dances we made up, and she was, my best friend, and we did not speak the same language. And I mean that literally, okay? I spoke English, she spoke Spanish, and every day we just vibed, okay? We just vibed so hard that we hung out every day, and this is my best friend. And looking back, I'm like, wow, language is not even a prerequisite to our just being yeah, we're in. Because we were just existing on something else, right? And I don't even functionally know, looking back, I'm I don't know. We were so close that my family ended up moving to Colorado, and I miss her so much, so my parents flew her out. She came to visit. We were best friends. And I think about that a lot because that's how it is when you're younger, right? Before all these complexities, there's not a lot of barriers to belonging and to understanding. And then we get older and we have trauma and we have wounds and we have fears and we have complexity and we have ideologies and we have politics and we have theology and we have all these things that keep us at a distance from one another. And what I think we are constantly trying to build in this space and why I believe in church and why I love a place like New Abbey is because we are saying all of those complexities exist, and can we figure out how to belong to one another? Can we figure out how to bring unity instead of uniformity? What if we all don't agree? What if we all don't do all the same things? How do we find that sense of belonging? And I think the only path to that is vulnerability. I think vulnerability is our only shot we have at community and belonging. It's going to take people who are able to say, although we don't have all of these things in common, I need to share this thing. Some of the good news in the first gathering was a woman in our community whose son had unexpectedly gone into the hospital. They didn't know he had asthma. He was having this condensed asthma attack. He was in the hospital for a week. And she had reached out to some of the people, and the community just showed up in such a beautiful way. And all week I have been reminded oh yeah, and I know this is gonna sound weird, but I'm oh yeah, this is a church. And what I mean by that is a lot of us have these theological ideas that we need to undo, and these things that we need to learn, and these fun books that we can read, and these podcasts, and all of that is such important work. But at the end of the day, we're going to have people in our community whose kids go to the hospital, and we need meal trains, and we need flowers, and we need prayers, and we need texts, and we need to show up as community and remind her that she belongs to us. We belong to her. We are creating this sense of unity, and that's only going to come when we allow each other to be involved to our lives, into our real lives. Has anyone ever read or seen Into the Wild? Yeah, it's been a while. I know, it came out. I say that because I'm about to give a major spoiler, but I think it came out in 1994, so, okay? I don't feel bad about that. But it's a story of this guy who goes sort of into the wilderness and into these tired with the consumerism and capitalism in America. We've all been there. And so he goes off into the wilderness and he has this adventure, and it's so hyper independent. He's doing everything on his own. And the spoiler is that he doesn't make it out of the wilderness. I know. Okay, let me not. Sorry, I've been doing enough therapy. And not to discount that. And he has journals, and he's journaling. And so he has all these high highs and these low lows. And eventually he writes that he realized that happiness is only real when shared, right? So he has these big moments where he kills a moose or gets this tree branch or makes a thing. I don't remember the details. But that's his sense of I'm experiencing all this life, but all of this life that I'm experiencing only materializes and it's only real and it only becomes tangible. I only experience it when it's shared with the people around me. And I fear that in our current culture, in the way we do things, in our hyper independence and all of our like online things that we're experiencing all of this rich and nuanced and complex life, and it's only going to be real when we let other people into it and when we share that. And that is the beauty of the thing that we are creating in this room, that we have the opportunity to do, that not a lot of places do, and it's really, really important work. It's so important. And it's not just like for the sake of like friendships and I have people can call on my birthday. It's because we are facing like an epidemic of loneliness, and it's really, really hard and sad. And I'll be the first to say I am not that good at vulnerability. I have in my life many times felt lonely and said, I wish people in my life knew I was lonely and reached out. Also, I could say, hey, I'm feeling a little lonely. I'm reaching out to you. And that's hard. But that's the beauty of what we experience. The reason we share good news every single week is because we want to create community. Do you know how many times I've heard people say after good news, and I'm like, thanks for sharing that. And they say, this is actually the first time I said it out loud. I'm like, I love that. But also, I don't love that. Because I want us to have spaces and places where we're saying all the things out loud to real people. And total agreement is not a prerequisite for belonging. We're creating unity, not uniformity. And I think some of that will create this nuance in this community that we need to see more of in the world, that we can belong to one another without every single part of ourselves hitting the same notes, right? And it's a beautiful, I think, reflection of what we want to see. How many people have any of you ever felt lonely? And then how many people have, like, in that moment reached out to someone and said, like, I'm feeling lonely? Yeah. We all just need to remember it's okay to belong to one another. It's okay to crave community and belonging. And it's okay if everything isn't figured out. Even if you feel like you don't speak the same language, let's just exist on vibes. Okay? It's me and Crystal. Crystal Corrales, if you're watching online, there's almost no way you are, but how you doing? That's the opportunity we have. How good it is when we dwell together in unity. How good it is when we can say, here's some good news I want to celebrate. Here's a hard thing going on in my world. And we get to show up. And some of that complexity starts to wash away when we allow each other into some of those inner parts. We all love, when you see that just like innate feeling when you see an online video of like a duck and a pit bull and their best friends, and you say like, why does that bring such deep joy to my heart? We have that same opportunity. Okay, that was a reach. Zoe was not. Zoe was with me though. Zoe's like, yes, I do love those videos. I just think sometimes we're looking for belonging, for people who are going to reflect back to us everything that's the same about us. And if that's what we're looking for, we are going to perpetually be lonely. I think what we get to look for in belonging is people who are willing to sit and make the real things even more real with us, in spite of all the complexities that exist between. And we have that opportunity to do so. So you're going to grab the same 3 or 4 people around you and answer this question. How, just kidding, can you foster belonging in your life? Enjoy.